Wealthy Bugatti owners are facing a growing wave of questions after a series of rebuilds and repair discoveries shared online by mechanic and YouTuber Matt Armstrong. These concerns are not about whether Bugatti makes fast or impressive cars, because that part is not in doubt. Instead, the debate is about what owners are actually paying for when they spend millions on these vehicles. For many years, Bugatti has built its reputation on extreme exclusivity, advanced engineering, and hand-built perfection. Buyers are told they're not just purchasing a car, but entering a very rare level of automotive ownership, where almost everything about the vehicle is special, unique, and different from normal cars. That image is a powerful part of the brand's identity, and it helps explain why prices can reach several $million. However, when real-world repair work and rebuild projects start appearing online, especially from independent builders working on damaged Bugatti models, some of these assumptions began to be questioned. The focus is not only on performance, but on parts, servicing, and how unique the car actually is underneath its luxury image. This has created a wider conversation among car enthusiasts, mechanics, and even owners themselves. The central issue is simple but important. How much of Bugatti is truly one-of-a-kind engineering, and how much is shared technology from its parent company Volkswagen Group? This question has become more serious because it affects not only trust in the brand, but also how people understand value in the ultra-luxury car market. When millions of dollars are involved, even small details about parts and maintenance can change how the entire ownership experience is viewed. To understand the situation clearly, it is important to first understand what Bugatti sells to its customers. A Bugatti is not marketed like a normal car. It is presented as a symbol of engineering perfection, extreme performance, and total exclusivity. Buyers are told that they are receiving something that very few people in the world will ever own. Every detail, from the engine to the interior stitching, is presented as carefully designed and built with very high standards. The cars are also linked with extreme speed, often capable of going well over 250 miles per hour, which places them among the fastest road cars ever made. This combination of rarity, performance, and luxury is what justifies the extremely high price tag. In marketing terms, Bugatti is not just selling transportation. It is selling status, identity, and engineering excellence all at once. Another important part of this image is the idea that servicing and repairs require highly specialized knowledge and facilities. Owners are told that only certified technicians can work on these vehicles, and that parts are not shared with normal cars. This adds to the feeling that the car is completely unique and separate from anything else on the road. Over time, this messaging builds a strong belief that every component inside the vehicle is custom-made for Bugatti alone. However, this is also where the recent discussions become important, because when people began looking closely at actual repair work, especially on damaged or salvaged cars, they started finding familiar parts that seemed to come from the wider Volkswagen Group system. This does not necessarily reduce the quality of the vehicle, but it does raise questions about how exclusivity is defined and communicated. The turning point in this discussion came when Matt Armstrong, a mechanic and YouTube creator known for rebuilding damaged luxury and supercars, began working on a crashed Bugatti Chiron. His goal was not to challenge the brand, but simply to document the process of rebuilding the car for educational and entertainment purposes. During this work, he started removing and inspecting various components, as any experienced mechanic would. One of the key moments came when he examined the passenger airbag unit. On the part, he found a number and design structure that looked familiar to anyone who has worked with Volkswagen Group vehicles. The Volkswagen Group is a large automotive company that owns several brands, including Audi, Volkswagen, Seat, Skoda, and Bugatti. Because of this structure, it is not unusual for some engineering platforms or components to be shared across different cars within the group. However, what caught attention in this case was that the airbag part number appeared to match one used in a much cheaper Audi model. This discovery led to further investigation, where the part was compared more closely with an Audi A3 airbag. According to the findings shown during the rebuild process, the connectors, mounting points, and design layout appeared extremely similar. This raised an important question. If a part in a multi-million-dollar hypercar is identical to one in a mass-produced economy car, what exactly is the difference that justifies the price gap? This question quickly spread online and became a major topic among automotive fans and critics. It is important to note that part sharing inside large car groups is not unusual, But the level of similarity in such a high-end vehicle made many people curious about how far this sharing actually goes as the rebuild continued. More examples added to the discussion. Another major case involved Bugatti Veyron, with a gearbox issue. In official servicing terms, the gearbox in these cars is treated as a sealed and highly complex unit. Bugatti service centers often recommend full replacement rather than repair if a serious issue is found. The cost of such a replacement can reach hundreds of thousands of euros, making it one of the most expensive repair items in the automotive world. This approach reinforces the idea that the car is extremely advanced and not designed for standard repair methods. However, in a separate case involving a similar gearbox problem, Matt Armstrong discovered that the issue was not a major internal failure at all. Instead, it was traced to a simple blown fuse that cost only a few euros to replace. Once the correct fuse was installed, the gearbox functioned normally again. This situation created a strong contrast between official repair estimates and actual mechanical reality. It also highlighted an important issue in high-end vehicle servicing. Sometimes diagnosis and repair decisions depend heavily on specialized systems and authorized processes, which may not always identify simple solutions. This does not mean that official technicians are incorrect, but it does raise questions about how repair pathways are structured in ultra-luxury vehicles. When a small electrical part can cause a major system failure, the difference between simple repair and full replacement becomes very significant in terms of cost. For owners, this creates a situation where maintenance expenses can vary greatly depending on how a problem is interpreted and diagnosed beyond internal components. The discussion also extended to structural repairs and bodywork. Bugatti vehicles are often described as extremely complex machines that require certified facilities for any major repair work, especially when it involves chassis damage. The reasoning is that these cars are built with very precise engineering standards, and even small structural changes can affect safety or performance at very high speeds. However, in independent rebuild projects, some fabricators have demonstrated that certain types of structural repairs can be completed using standard workshop tools and techniques, such as TIG welding and conventional body repair methods. In one case, a damaged chassis section was repaired outside of an official Bugatti facility and then reinforced during the process. The result, according to the builder, was structurally strong and visually clean. This does not necessarily mean that official repair standards are unnecessary, because manufacturers must ensure safety, consistency, and liability control. However, it does show that the difference between possible repair and official approved repair is not always the same thing. In high-value cars, certification and control often play a major role in how repairs are handled, even when alternative methods exist. This adds another layer to the discussion about cost and exclusivity, because part of what owners pay for is not only the repair itself, but also the guarantee that it meets manufacturer standards and preserves brand responsibility. When all these observations are combined, a bigger picture begins to form. Bugatti cars are clearly advanced high-performance machines that represent some of the most impressive engineering in the automotive world. There is no serious debate about their speed, design, or technical achievement. However, the recent findings from independent rebuilds have encouraged people to look more closely at how exclusivity is defined. The presence of shared components within a large automotive group is not unusual, but it challenges the idea that every part of a hypercar must be completely unique. At the same time, the extremely high cost of servicing and replacement parts raises questions about how pricing is structured in this segment of the market. In many cases, owners are not only paying for physical parts, but also for certification, brand protection, service infrastructure, and risk management systems. These factors are real and important in luxury engineering, but they are not always visible to the customer in a simple explanation. As a result, discussions like these are less about exposing wrongdoing and more about understanding how modern luxury engineering actually works behind the scenes. The conversation continues to grow because it touches on a larger idea. In a world where global car companies share platforms and technology, what truly defines exclusivity? The conversation around Bugatti ownership and shared automotive components becomes even more interesting when we look at how modern car manufacturing actually works behind the scenes. Today's automotive industry is not built on completely isolated brands, making everything from scratch. Instead, large parent companies like Volkswagen Group operate as massive engineering networks where platforms, electronics, and sometimes even safety systems are developed in shared environments. This approach is used for efficiency, cost control, and reliability. In normal mass-market cars, this makes perfect sense because it allows companies to produce millions of vehicles at reasonable prices while still maintaining quality standards. However, when this same structure is connected to a hypercar brand like Bugatti, the perception changes dramatically. Customers paying millions of dollars expect a completely unique engineering experience, not something that shares its foundation with more affordable vehicles. This is where misunderstanding and expectations start to collide. On one hand, engineers argue that shared components are not a weakness, but a strength because they are already tested, proven, and reliable across many vehicles. On the other hand, buyers often assume that exclusive means every single part is custom-made for their car alone. This difference in interpretation is at the center of the current debate. When independent builders and mechanics discover familiar parts inside high-end vehicles, it does not automatically mean the car is less capable or less advanced. Instead, it shows that even the most prestigious automotive brands still rely on shared engineering systems in certain areas. This is not unusual in modern manufacturing, but it becomes controversial when marketing language emphasizes total uniqueness without clearly explaining where shared technology exists. As a result, the discussion is less about technical failure and more about transparency, expectations, and how luxury is defined in a highly connected industrial system. Another important part of this discussion is the cost of ownership, which plays a major role in how Bugatti vehicles are perceived. Owning a hypercar is not only about purchasing the vehicle itself, but also about maintaining it over time. Service costs, repair bills, and replacement parts are significantly higher than normal vehicles, and this is often justified by the complexity of the engineering and the need for specialized technicians. For example, routine maintenance tasks such as oil changes, fluid replacements, or tire changes can cost as much as an average family car. This is because the process often requires partial disassembly, specialized equipment, and certified workshop environments. Similarly, components like headlights, key fobs, or suspension parts are priced at extremely high levels compared to standard vehicles. Manufacturers justify these prices by pointing to low production volume, expensive development costs, and the need for strict quality control. In addition, the cost also includes the infrastructure required to support such rare vehicles, including training programs for technicians and global service networks. However, when owners or independent mechanics discover that some internal components may originate from more common vehicle platforms, it naturally raises questions about pricing structure. If a part can be traced back to a mass-produced system, people begin to wonder how much of the cost is tied to the physical component itself versus branding, certification, and exclusivity. This does not mean the pricing is unfair, but it does show that the final cost of ownership is influenced by many factors beyond just raw materials. In luxury engineering, price often reflects more than function. It reflects access, support, and controlled ownership experience. Still, when simple repairs appear to resolve issues that were previously considered extremely expensive failures, it challenges how people think about value in this segment. The repair and servicing system itself also plays a major role in shaping this conversation. High-end manufacturers like Bugatti maintain strict control over who can service their vehicles and how repairs are carried out. Only certified technicians are allowed to perform certain types of work, and in many cases, repairs must be done at authorized facilities. This system is designed to protect both the brand and the customer. From a manufacturer's perspective, it ensures that every repair meets exact engineering standards, especially since these vehicles operate at extremely high speeds where safety is critical. Even small mistakes in repair work could have serious consequences, so centralized control helps reduce risk. However, from the customer perspective, this system can sometimes feel limiting or overly expensive. When independent mechanics demonstrate that certain issues can be resolved using standard tools or alternative methods, it creates tension between official procedures and practical solutions. The case of simple electrical faults, such as fuse replacements resolving major gearbox issues, highlights this gap clearly. In some situations, official diagnostics may lead to full component replacement because it is the safest and most controlled option, even if a simpler fix exists. This approach prioritizes certainty over cost efficiency. For everyday vehicles, this might not matter as much, but for multi-million-dollar cars, even small differences in repair strategy can result in huge financial impact. The key issue here is not whether one system is right or wrong, but how much flexibility should exist within a tightly controlled luxury ecosystem. Finally, the broader meaning of this entire discussion goes beyond Bugatti alone and reflects how modern luxury products are evolving. In today's world, almost every high-end product, whether it's a car, phone, or even a watch, exists within a global supply chain where parts, materials, and engineering knowledge are shared across multiple brands. True isolation is extremely rare. Instead, luxury is created through design, performance tuning, limited production, brand reputation, and customer experience rather than complete technical independence. Bugatti still represents one of the highest levels of automotive performance ever achieved, and its vehicles remain engineering masterpieces in terms of speed, stability, and craftsmanship. However, the growing transparency from rebuild projects and independent inspections is changing how people think about what they are actually buying. It is no longer enough for a brand to simply claim exclusivity. Modern audiences want to understand what that exclusivity really means in practical terms. If certain components are shared within a corporate group, or if repair systems rely heavily on controlled networks, then that becomes part of the ownership reality. This does not reduce the achievement of building such powerful machines, but it does shift the conversation from pure admiration to informed evaluation. In the end, the Bugatti discussion is not just about one brand or one YouTuber's findings. It is about how luxury, technology, and transparency interact in a world where information is more accessible than ever before. Owners are still buying extraordinary machines, but they are also becoming more aware of the systems behind them, and that awareness is reshaping expectations across the entire hypercar industry. As the debate continues, one of the most important things to understand is how perception plays a huge role in the value of ultra-luxury cars. A Bugatti is not only judged by its engineering, but also by the story built around it. That story includes ideas like no compromises, fully bespoke engineering, and parts designed only for this car. These ideas are powerful because they shape how buyers emotionally justify spending millions of dollars. When someone pays